All right, good morning, guys. I'm going to start with the press conference from yesterday. I didn't know they were having one yesterday. I thought we were going to have a week or two before Elias would come out and speak so we could all digest what happened. And the press conference made me more frustrated than the way the game ended because the press conference, if you didn't listen to it, 35 minutes long, I suggest you listen to it. Very defensive, number one, very defensive. Felt like he was explaining himself to the ownership, not to the fans, talking about his resume. He's built the team. We're such a great organization, and blah, 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 blah. So that was a little off putting, number one. And then number two, he has nothing to announce, no decisions, which is fine. No roster decisions, contract decisions. I get it, but he's already ready to announce that Brandon Hyde's coming back, and that's just disappointing. It is. I felt like a few weeks, an evaluation, a consideration of bringing somebody else in was the right way of going about things. And if you listen to the way Elias talked, it's very similar to DaCosta and Hardball, where they're friends, and it's not a boss to employee relationship. It's a collaboration. The DaCosta hardball thing you understand because of hardball's success so early. And frankly, DaCosta wasn't Hardball's boss when Hardball first got here. He was still under Ozzie. So it made it a little bit more nuanced. This, I don't like it at all. I just don't like it. I didn't think they collaborated as much as they did. I guess my read was off. It felt like they were on different pages. And I think the logical solution after the season is to get some fresh eyes in here for lots of reasons, not just for a different message or motivating and certain things that maybe we're not privy to because it's in the clubhouse, but just a completely different approach to how each of these young players can be successful. If they're all looking at it with the same eyes again, I don't know exactly how they make the changes. He's stressed that he wants to make changes. He's got to work so hard and blah, blah, blah. But if you're not bringing in new leadership, if you're just going to, substitute a couple coaches in and out, I don't know. Very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. I think two things can be true. Hyde did a great job, and he's not the best guy to manage right now. These guys need somebody. I don't know if it's a former player, somebody that can help each individual baseball wise with their swing, with their approach, rather than what we saw here. Because if there was something different, they could have done it within the past few months. I don't know. The press conference really was just not great. So, yeah, that was my main takeaway. I don't want to keep hammering on the same points here because he'll be back. It is what it is, but not very optimistic after that press conference, and still have no idea what they're going to do with all the players. I don't really feel like speculating about it. At least not right this second. Football's going on, so that's my last piece on the Orioles. But yeah. So all right. Anyway, Kirk Cousins and the Falcons. How do we make money this weekend? Ooh, what happened last night? I think we start with Cousins, right? His numbers were great. Falcons come back and win, but I guess from a gambling perspective, I went 2-1. Very lucky to get 2-1. The Falcons' defense was better in the second half, but it was more about the Bucks just were running the ball and then turned the ball over and just didn't know how to win the game yesterday. It gave the Falcons too many chances. Falcons looked like they didn't know how to win the game either. Wasn't the I guess it was a great fantasy game for most people. Not the most well played game, very entertaining. So to get out of there 2-1 because Baker's didn't get to his yards, just a weird stat line to see his numbers. 19 for 24, was it like a buck 80, 3 touchdowns. Bucks, really bad loss for them. Feel like they should have won that game. Happy to get the 2-1, like I said, but yeah, my overall takeaway from it is both these teams probably are championship teams, at least not right this second. I don't know if anything's going to change. The Falcons' offense gets rolling there, but they're not doing a great job protecting them. Felt like he was getting rid of the ball. Cousins, that was like just barely getting rid of it. He was great. Tampa's missing a lot of guys in the secondary. That's why my analysis was swaying more towards the Falcons being able to put up points. But I thought the Falcons' defense regressed yesterday. That, or we just got to put Baker as a top 10 quarterback and just let it go because Baker is really, really good. I mean, the one touchdown was like a 4 or 5 yard play to Shepard in the end zone the first half. It's like a perfect pass. They fumbled the ball there, and they couldn't find a way to get Atlanta off the field at the end of the game. So happy with that. I was going to break down all these games, but I find it to be not like pointless, but not as relevant as doing it on Sunday morning because these injuries, it's like every single team's got so many injuries that I finally get caught up in the games, but I'm like, I don't know who's playing yet. And today's usually at least you get the most intel, right? Is after Friday's practice, traveling. Some guys don't travel. Sometimes you get the last minute. The main press conferences are on Wednesday, but you get some media on Friday. The point is, I'm going to go through all the games on Sunday mornings. That's just going to be the way I do the NFL. It's just better that way, more informative. And yeah, for this week, wanted to spend some time on the Ravens and the Bengals here for a few minutes because more so from the Bengals perspective, I think the Ravens. Look, not to be Captain Obvious here, but if we just play our game, then we should win, right? So analyzing the Ravens here is like, okay, you gotta just wait till we get to the fourth quarter to analyze the Ravens. That's how I feel. Like I know how good we are. Everybody knows how good we are. We were awesome last week. Most likely, this will be a fourth quarter game with 10 minutes left, a one score game, and that's where the Ravens will be defined. That's how yeah, that's what's going to come down. They're going to blow a lot of teams out. They'll probably blow more teams out than almost any other team this year. But these fourth quarter games, they got to prove they can win them. Cincinnati's perspective, Burrow's press conference was kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a shot at his defense. He said he's going to have to play damn near perfect to win the game. I think that the vibes and the energy is certainly in favor of the Ravens because the Bengals defense has just been awful. I hope this is not their get right game. I thought it was going to be last week. That's why I had the under in their game with the Panthers. But the defense just might not have the horses. They're going to get back rankings and most likely BJ Hill, their two defensive tackles who have both been out. I don't know if that's necessarily matters that much against the Ravens offensive line and the Ravens rushing attack. The Bengals, I don't think they're going to have the horses. I think as long as the Ravens hold on to the ball, they should be playing with the lead. And when I say it's a fourth quarter game, that's like the best case scenario for the Bengals. I think the absolute best case scenario for the Bengals is they're within one score with 7-8 minutes left. And they get Burrow beats Lamar at the end. But I think there's a better chance that the Bengals are down 10 points and have to get a touchdown. Like they're down two scores and they're playing catch up the whole game. And maybe it's a one score game in the fourth quarter, but it's not as close as the one score feels. The Ravens should control this game. It's a really important game. I think the Bengals would be in a better position if the Ravens were 3-1 or 4-0. But just like how we went to Dallas, like just because we're 2-2 and not in a very good mood, just because we beat Buffalo. So this road trip to Cincinnati, I think, has the same vibes as when we went to Dallas. And yeah, I like the Ravens to win. But if it's a fourth quarter game and it's a one score, it's like all bets are off. It's situational football, and they got to prove to us that they know what the right plays are at the right time, coaching the whole 9 yards. We're building on something. Last week was a great start. We can't afford to take a step backward. It's not a season-ending loss if we lose, obviously. But as we start to get this momentum going, I think this team has the potential to be the best team we've had. Better than last year and better than the 2019 team because Derrick Henry looks like the best running back. Him and Saquon Barkley, it's like, I mean, he's just unstoppable. So as long as we're doing the little things, no penalties, none, like just not beating ourselves. 2019 football with a way better running back, with all due respect to Mark Ingram, in Henry, and Lamar 100 times better. So I hope that's the game plan. I hope they don't try to get too cute because Cincinnati does play, Amarillo, whatever his name is. Anyway, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals. He's been known to draw up some special schemes in certain situations. Feels like that's been a couple years ago, and he was the hot defensive coordinator, and the Bengals just seem like a hot mess defensively. Offensively, I don't really trust the Bengals offensive line. I watched them against Panthers. I watched them against Washington. It was better. Their offensive line is the biggest weakness. The ball's going to come out really quick. They're going to try to get these 4 or 5 yard plays. Yeah, I think our personnel on defense in the secondary matches up really well with Cincinnati. They held up last year. So I'm looking forward to a great game with the Ravens and hopefully getting Baltimore sports moved in a positive direction because just very deflating. I think the main thing that was deflating about everything over the past week is how much things cost and ticket prices, and just listening to different stories of people not being in a good mood to enjoy the Orioles. And ownership, I've listened to a lot of different things. So I guess my last take on it, I don't know why I keep saying my last take, but I promise after today, I really didn't know the press conference was going to be yesterday, but it just got me thinking. I started listening to a lot of, just it went from random people, friends and family, like anecdotal stuff, to other people's podcasts. And, things cost a lot of money. And if once you lose that perspective, um, and you don't realize like how much people sacrifice to go to the games, then you're going to make silly mistakes like what they did with the ticket prices. There's ways around it. It's not capitalism in the traditional sense, but you should find a way to reimburse the people that paid way more money for tickets than who are the most loyal fans who prepaid for it than people that paid opportunistically at the last minute. Like that's okay for hotels and flights, and like we're used to that. That's part of life, right? Like just trying to figure out how to get the best deal. But there's something really, really wrong about securing playoff tickets because you're worried they're going to be sold out. Then they're not sold out, and there's no reimbursement. Doesn't feel like anything was done, and then they lose. Then we have a press conference to remind us how great we are. And you provided entertainment last year as an organization, and this year you didn't provide the necessary adjustments to make it entertaining. So people weren't entertained for a couple months. So I think you just got to read the room, and if anything, just I don't know, reimburse. Like, is it that hard to reimburse people? I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? But that was the last thing that left a bad taste in my mouth. Yeah. So all right, no more Orioles for now. We'll do the Orioles in a month or so when they start making some moves and figuring out what the roster is going to look like. I'm going to get back to focusing on how we can make some money, and starting with tonight and tomorrow, or not tonight, tomorrow we got all the baseball games. So gonna at least give it my best shot here to see if I can find one series at least where I can be on the right side of it. Man, baseball's just not been kind to me, but football feels like we're turning the corner. Got lucky last night to go 2-1. Jamar got really unlucky. Both of his games, I mean, 3.5. He needed over 3.5 catches for Robinson, the running back on the Falcons. He ends with 3. 64.5 yards for Godwin. He ends up with 64. Oh, gambling is a pain in the ass sometimes. That's why you don't brag when you win. You just are like, all right, great. Let's just move on. So, all right, I will have podcasts out in the morning, and I will see you guys Sunday for all the NFL and give my picks and the whole nine. So have a good night. Baseball's tomorrow. If you're betting on college football tonight, good luck. And see you guys tomorrow.